and thanking and welcoming our volunteers that have been helping us the last couple of weeks. If I can get all the volunteers and staff and the buddies to stand or come out from under the stage. I'm not going to introduce them in any particular order, but I'm just going to keep saying their names and you guys can just keep clapping. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Lydia Polk and Hannah Schindel, who are on movement for the last couple of days. Next, I'd like to introduce Nate Zulig and Jay Sappington, who are on music. And then I'd like to thank Norma Polk and Nancy Coppin, who are on set and costumes. And we lost some of our craft people, but I'd like to thank Gail Dew for coming, and I think I'm forgetting somebody in there. Beth Barbara, who is here. And lastly, the people who really were the core of these last couple of days, our art buddies, who are Charity Schindel, James Hahn, I'm forgetting somebody, Karen Hartnett, and Ella Johnson. And now, I would like to introduce the camp director, theater director, director of all things this week, Mr. Don Hart.
Thanks, everybody. Let's get in places. Well, it's a privilege to be here, and the Canadian Air Force is here especially for us tonight. We were able to arrange that so that it would be kind of the introductory part of the show for you and the enjoyment. From here, it just like takes off and bam. So anyway, your kids are awesome. They've done a great job. We've been working at this, what has it been, 3 months or 3 years? Oh no, 3 afternoons. That's what we've been working on so far. And they've been awesome, doing a wonderful thing. One of the things that we had 2 goals. One is that the kids would feel like they were known and that they were loved, and that they could also start to share their own story. And we first started with saying, okay, if people saw you or knew you, what were some words that they would describe, like friendly or big smile or fast or whatever, they were. And then was to remember something. I remember going to Indiana to see an aunt, or I remember going to Cedar Point, or I remember the first time I had pizza. And then we would take that and say, well, is there a story around that? And they would write out a story, and they have little booklets they're going to take back home tonight with them, and they can share that with you. Also that they knew they were important, and that the story and the life experience they had was special. And then what we wanted to do is put a story together as a group and do a story all as a unit. And we had movement in it, and you'll see in a minute there's acting and also music. So the name of our story tonight is called The Golden Goose. And it was written by 2 guys hundreds of years ago, the Grimm brothers. You've probably heard of Grimm brothers fairy tales. And this one is what you're going to see tonight. Please give a big hand of applause for our actors, and we're about to begin. There once was a man and a woman, a husband and wife, who had 3 sons. The youngest of whom was called Dumbling, or sometimes Simpleton. Well, Dumbling had a tough time because on every occasion where people saw him, he was made fun of and sneered at. Once upon a time, there was a young man. Seemed like he'd
been dealt a bad hand. Whenever he'd come round, the people would make fun. They would call him simpleton.
A dum 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 a dum. Let me hear you. A dum 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 a dum dum me. A dum 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 a dum dum me. A dum 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 a dum dum me.
Listen to our story and you will see something about his heart was amazing.
Something amazing. A little louder.
Cause he would change the world, this dum-dum limb. Yes, he would change the world, this dum-dum limb.
A dum 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 a dum dum me. A dum 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 dum. Little more. A dum dum me.
It happened that the oldest of the three sons wanted to go into the forest to chop wood. But before he went, his mother gave him a beautiful sweet cake and a bottle of delicious cider so that he wouldn't be hungry or thirsty. When he went into the forest, he met a little gray-haired old man who said,
"Hello, young man. May I have a piece of cake and a drink of cider? I am so hungry and thirsty."
If I give you some of my cake and... How do you know I have cake and cider? If I give you some, I shall have none for myself. Don't bother me. Be off.
and he left the little man and went on. But when he came to cut down a tree, it was not long before he made a false stroke, and the axe cut him in his arm, so that he had to go home and have it bound up. And this was because of the little gray man's influence. After this, the second son decided he wanted to go into the forest, and so he asked, and his mother gave him, like the eldest, a cake and a bottle of cider. This son was the toughest of all the sons. And so when he came, he saw the little gray old man who met him, and the man asked him,
"May I have a piece of cake and a drink of cider?"
"If I give you some, I'll have none for myself," he said. And he left the little man standing and went on. His punishment, however, was not delayed. When he had made a few blows at the tree, he struck himself in the leg, so that he had to be carried home. Then Dumbling said,
Please go into the forest and cut wood.
"Father, will you let me go and cut wood?" he said. The father said,
Your brothers have hurt themselves with it. You don't understand anything about it.
but Dumbling begged so long that at last his father said,
Go, then. You'll just get wise about hurting yourself.
his mother gave him a cake, but not a sweet cake. This was baked in the cinders. With this cake, she gave him a bottle of sour cider. And when he would go on the road, he would sing this song. in the Valley of Love and Delight. Well, when he came to the forest, the little old gray man met him as well, and greeting him said,
May I have a piece of cake and a drink of cider? And a drink out of your bottle? I'm so hungry and thirsty.
I only have cinder cake and sour cider, she said, but if that pleases you, we will sit down to eat. So they sat down, and when Dumpling pulled out his cinder cake, it was a fine sweet cake. And the sour cider had become delicious apple cider. Oh, so they ate and drank. And after that, the little man said,
Since you have a good heart and are willing to divide what you have, I will give you good luck. There stands an old tree. Cut it down and you will find something at its roots.
Dumpling went and cut down the tree. He went and saw a big tree, not knowing what might happen to him when he started to cut the tree, because he knew what had happened to his brothers. But when it fell, there was a goose sitting in the roots. A goose with feathers of pure gold.
Now the tumblings after Goose made of gold, folks start to notice and want to take hold. It doesn't bother him, they want to get in line, because he's heard of something that makes him waste no time.
So Dumpling lifted up his goose, and taking her with him, went to an inn. He thought he would stay overnight. Now, there were 3 daughters that the innkeeper had. All saw the goose, but they waited back for a minute to see what was going. And Dumpling came forward again, up towards the audience a little bit. And they were wondering what this wonderful goose might be with the feathers. So the eldest thought, I shall soon find an opportunity of pulling out a feather. And as soon as Dumpling came up forward, she seized the goose by the wing. Uh-oh, her finger and hand remained stuck to it. The second sister came soon afterwards, thinking only of how she might get a feather for herself, but she had scarcely touched her sister than she was held fast. At last, the third sister also came with the same thought, and the others screamed out, keep away!
Keep away!
But she did not understand why she was to keep away. Third sister thought, the others out there, I may as well be there too, and ran to them. But as soon as she touched her sister, she was stuck to her. So Dumpling walked a little ways, and they sat down for sleeping that night. And they went to sleep together, all connected. The next morning, Dumpling took the goose under his arm and set out without troubling himself about the 3 girls who were hanging on to it. They were obliged to run after him continually, now left, running now left, and running now right wherever his legs took him. In the middle of the field, they ran into a parson who said to them when he saw the procession,
"Shameful! You worthless girls, why are you chasing this boy through this field? Is that modest?"
At the same time, he seized the youngest by the hand in order to pull her away, but as soon as he touched her, he likewise stuck fast and was himself obliged to run behind. Before long, the deacon came by, and he said in astonishment to his pastor,
Hello, good deacon.
and running after him, he took him by the sleeve, but was also held fast to it. And Dumpling took them around again. While the five were trotting along, one behind the other, two laborers from the field came along, and the pastor begged that they would set him and the deacon free. But they had scarcely touched the deacon when they were held fast. Back, laborers, holding fast, labor, holding fast, labor, holding fast, fantastic. And they were stuck. Now 7 of them were running behind Dumpling and the Goose, running and running and running. Soon they came to a city where a king ruled who had made a decree. And he had a daughter who was so serious that no one could make her laugh. So he had put the decree forth that whoever should be able to make her laugh should marry her. When Dumpling heard this, he went with his goose and all her train before the king's daughter. And the princess, who was so sad looking when he saw this funny sight, all of a sudden started to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. As if she would never stop.
Find his mate. But what do you think? Is the task too great? The king demands more to make this fun, but no matter what, Dumpling's heart needs him on.
Dum 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 dum.
Right there, and then Dumpling asked to have her for his wife. But the king did not like this future son-in-law and made all manner of excuses and said he must first produce a man who could drink a cellar full of cider. Dumpling thought of the little gray man who could certainly help him. So he went into the forest, and in the same place where he had felled the tree, he saw the little gray man who had a very sorrowful face. Dumpling asked him what he was taking to heart so sorely.
I have a great thirst. I cannot quench it. Cold water I cannot stand. I have just emptied a barrel of cider, but that to me is like a drop on a hot stone.
And he came with Dumpling. He led him into the king's cellar, and the man bent over the huge barrels and drank till his stomach hurt. And before the day was out, he had emptied all the barrels. Then Dumpling asked once more his bride, but the king was vexed. that such an unimpressive fellow, whom everyone called Dumpling, should take away his daughter. So again, he sought a way out and ordered that Dumpling produce something he knew was impossible. A ship that could sail both on the sea and on land. King said,
as soon as you come sailing in it, you shall certainly have my daughter for my wife.
The king felt certain that he would never do it, but Dumpling went straight into the forest, and there sat the little gray man to whom he had given his cake. When he heard what Dumpling wanted, he said,
Since you have given me to eat and to drink, I will give you the ship. And remember, I do all this because you once were kind to me.
Then he gave him the ship, which could sail both on the sea and on land. And they sailed back to the town with the golden goose to meet the king, the queen, and Dumpling's princess. And the king sought and could no longer prevent him from marrying his daughter. And the parson came, and Dumpling brought his bride down the ladder, who elegantly jumped down, and they stood in front of the parson, and he pronounced a blessing.
Blessings.
And so they were married. And as these things happen, after the king's death, Dumpling inherited his kingdom and lived for a long time contentedly with his sweet wife, with his sweet wife, with his sweet wife, with his sweet wife. Where is his sweet wife? Okay, with his sweet wife, who was always laughing.
Once upon a time, there was a young man. Seemed like he'd been dealt a bad hand. Whenever he'd come round, the people would make fun. They would call him Simpleton.
A dum 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 dum, a dum dum ring. A dum 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 dum, a dum dum ring. A dum dum dum, a dum dum ring. A dum 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 dum, a dum dum ring.
Now you heard the story, and you can see something about his heart is amazing.
Amazing. Little louder.
He would change the world, this dum-dum ring. He would change the world, this dum-dum ring. A dum-dum,
A dum dum ring.
a dum-dum-dum-dum, a dum-dum ring.
Little more.
Dum-dum-dum,
A dum dum ring.
change the world forever. And maybe we can learn from this dum-dum ring. Then we can
Change the world, that's dum dum lings. And we can change the world, that's dum dum lings. We can change the world. Little louder now.
We can change the world, this dum-dum rings. We can change the world, this dum-dum rings.
Okay, everybody, take a bow. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, bow. And once more, 1, 2, 3, bow. Thank you, everybody. Remember, all the kids have something for you and they're important to take home tonight. Thank you.